so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars.
Hi, and welcome to my show. I'm Susan Smith, and this is where I give my conservative views to local and national issues. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We've got a jam-packed show, so we're going to get going. Now, in order to get in touch with me or to review any of the issues or article links or video links that we discussed today, you will find that up on my website at thesusansmithshow.wordpress.com. All right, let's get into some announcements. Follow-up items. The gun rallies were held in the capitals of each state last Saturday across our country. And from the reports I'm getting, they had amazing turnouts. Okay, Congress is in session, so to watch that, you might want to turn off your soap operas and your game shows and tune in to what is actually happening and being said by your senators and representatives. On for Congress, it's cspan.org, or it's channel 6 or 7, depending if you want to watch the House or the Senate. For the Nebraska legislature, which is in session, you'll want to tune into Net2 TV, but that's on channel 26-2. And then you can also web stream live our Nebraska legislature at nebraskalegislature.gov. Now, while all these, we've got a mayoral race in process. The one question you want to ask each and every candidate, and actually not just for mayor, but whenever a candidate is running for any office, this is the question you want to ask them. Are they pro-amnesty? Are they pro-illegal alien? And if so, whose allegiance, who do they have their allegiance to? Is it going to be to the illegal aliens, or is it going to be to the citizens and legal immigrants? Because after all, the taxpayer is paying their salary. They're supposed to be representing us. And that's a question that needs to be asked. There was a car accident where 4 illegal aliens from Guatemala were killed. They ran into another car. They live in Fremont. They were driving into Nebraska beef down here in Omaha to go to work. What upsets me is that Channel 3, and I watched KMTV3, who did a follow-up sob story for the illegal aliens, interviewed the woman who loaned the illegal aliens her car, who said that their church was going to raise $30,000 to send their bodies back to Guatemala. Not one mention of the other driver that they ran into. That is what is upsetting. Now, I understand that KTV7 ran a sob story too, but I didn't get to see that, so I can't comment too much. But if you get a chance, go to their websites or their Facebook pages and just see the postings, the hatred that is shown on those websites for people who believe in the rule of law, who would rather support the lawful citizens and legal immigrants rather than the illegal aliens, and see how they're treated on there. All right. Now, next week, I am going to be talking quite a bit about the unicameral and the mayor race. And I'm going to be focusing on Virgil Patlin and Brad Ashford, who are both pro-amnesty and pro-illegal alien. I've got plenty to say on that subject. In addition to, there are so many bills up at the legislature you need to know about, so if you decide to, you can take action on it. So be sure to check out the website on the Unicam page. All right, so with that, we're going to get started with my guest. And we've got several guests today, all on the same issue. Patrick Bonnett is founder of the Conservative Coalition of Nebraska, and currently is serving as Executive Director of the Omaha Liberty Project, Well, welcome, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to it. So, this is an issue that is a concern for, Omaha citizens. So tell us what your organization is about and what it is you're trying to do.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Our organization is a program of the Christian Couples Fellowship International, who is a member of the Nebraska Heritage Coalition. That's important to know because the Nebraska Heritage Coalition is a kind of a loose citizens organization that was brought together to educate the public and oppose a new city ordinance here in Omaha, which created a new special civil rights classification, a protected classification, for persons engaging in lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered sexual behaviors. Effectively, it created a special protected civil rights classification based on behavior.
Okay, so you're talking about Councilman Gray's ordinance of giving protection, special protections to the homosexual community.
Correct.
Okay.
And the ordinance was deemed or called a equal employment ordinance, and really sold to the public as a way to recreate Omaha's image as a more open and welcoming city, as if we weren't already.
Right.
So our organization came together to oppose that ordinance by raising some public awareness. They held, the City Council had held 2 public readings and then set the stage to host a public hearing on it, but the media hadn't really given it much coverage, and not a lot of folks out there even knew what was going on or what the ramifications were. So our organization came together, drafted a proclamation on sexual preference, and 241 priests, pastors, and other ministers and lay people, people in business in our town, signed the proclamation and published it in the Omaha World Herald as a full-page ad.
Wow.
This is back in March, just prior to the Omaha City Council's vote on the ordinance. Later on, after the public hearing, where many people came out to oppose this special protected class.
Right. This was was this the first time Councilman Gray introduced it, or the second time?
It's actually the second time.
Okay.
It was defeated already in the City Council earlier in 2011, and then he brought it back in 2012 after having just made a few additional changes. And just for the history of it, the first time it was brought up, the vote cast was 3-3 with 1 member abstaining, and effectively the ordinance was defeated. And you can't bring back the same ordinance. It has to be a new ordinance. And so Councilman Gray made a few very minor changes and then brought it back in February.
Well, in fact, wasn't one of those changes that he waived the churches from having to follow the ordinance?
That was actually a side deal. And after the public hearing, they came up with a special exemption for churches and facilities owned or operated on behalf of churches. Okay. Effectively, that's also a problem. Not only is there a new special protected class, which divides the city, but creating a special exemption for churches divides the Christian community, the faith-based community, I should say, all faiths. Because you have, for instance, in the Catholic Church, I'm Catholic, you've got those who are protected by the exemption to this ordinance, and the rest of us business owners who are at risk.
Right, and there are costs associated to that it's passed on to the business owners, isn't there? In addition to the potential for litigation, because if someone isn't hired, well, they can go down and say, well, they didn't hire me because I'm part of the homosexual community. Now, is that right?
There's a lot of risks and potential costs. I would say legal perils, and the ordinance is very vague, and the public discourse has been almost nil. And so these city council members who introduced it and supported it, I feel, really have the obligation to come into the public square and explain themselves.
Well, now, wasn't the tiebreaker this last time and a surprise vote by Councilman Gerhls, who voted for it?
That's right. It was 3-3, and Gerhls ended up being the swing vote. At first he was opposed to it, and then he voted for it. So he, somewhere along the line, changed his mind.
Oh, I know that because there were gasps in that room.
Shocking.
Yes.
Shocked gasps. A great deal of disappointment. Again, not just for his vote, but for the lack of transparency and explanation.
Oh, just being open and honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one of my concerns, and perhaps you or one of your associates will be able to address it. My problem is that when you have transgenders being a protected class, and I go into a business, which restroom do they use? Because I'll tell you what, there's going to be a problem if I go into a restroom or one of my kids goes in there and there is a transgender in there, a man dressed up as a woman in that woman's bathroom. I just think that opens some risk up to women and children. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess I would offer a word of caution. It's a classic debate technique to bring the public discourse down to the lowest common denominator. And in this case, if our opposition can have us arguing over bathrooms, then we've already lost.
Well, not if it's placing the citizenry at risk. And now, I'm not saying that because a person, and I want to make sure that this is understood, I am not in any way saying that lesbian, gays, homosexuals, transgenders, bisexuals are in any way deviants or have a criminality about them at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying are the perverted child molesters out there, or sexual aggressors towards women or children, if they were to take this opportunity to be dressed as a transgender in an effort to go in and use that woman's bathroom and have access to vulnerable women and children. That's what I mean.
You're striking a chord here, and that's exactly what we want discussed out there. People are not familiar with this issue, sexual orientation and gender identity.
Okay.
Was the new language added to protected classes? Effectively, they changed the definitions of gender to include those additional classifications of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered persons.
Okay.
They're basing it on the American Psychological Association's classifications, and that organization has 18 classifications. So if you want equal protections for these 4, what about the other 14? Now, to the point of the bathrooms, absolutely, that is confusing, because those who are supporting this ordinance are basing their arguments on the 1960s civil rights laws.
Yeah,
and
everything's
in that case,
a civil rights issue anymore, isn't it?
Well, it needs to be explored. We can't dismiss it outright, because that leaves the public uninformed. We need to create public conversation to discuss the differences as to why we oppose it and why they're supporting it. If we just take their argument and accept it, then we're equating their sexual behavior with things like race, skin color. They're equating this movement to legitimize and create acceptance of their sexual behavior to the black civil rights movement, and we feel that that's wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
So if they build their argument on the civil rights laws, then they're seeking all the same protections, the same equality is what they're looking for. And when you bring up bathrooms, they don't want to just go in your bathrooms. They want gender-neutral bathrooms with new privacy features and new expense to business owners and those who are looking to expand their businesses, their facilities. They want equal access to the existing facilities. In a lot of cases, they even object to going into the ADA compliant bathrooms, Americans with Disabilities bathrooms. So do you want to send your child to the restroom having just seen, for instance, your young boy into the men's bathroom with or girl with knowing that some male just walked in there?
Absolutely
That's
not.
the exposure, and we feel that their right that they're claiming is infringing on our right.
Well, Patrick, I thought that anyone who felt in this country who felt that they were discriminated against takes care of that problem by hiring an attorney, or I'm sure the ACLU is out there just chomping at the bit to get a hold of somebody's lawsuit. So why this special protection? Why is it even necessary?
You're raising a good question.